child or group in the class, that persona doll would represent that group. And so when you're addressing an issue, you're acting it out in the classroom, you're talking about it, you're talking about it through the persona doll. So that if you have one child that's a person of color, or that one child that speaks a different language, then you're not targeting that person, and they're not being put in the spotlight, and it's the persona doll.
Okay, so we would say, what do you think Keisha feels? The persona has a name, I'm
Right.
guessing.
Yeah, they have a name, a family, a birthday.
So how would Keisha feel about you saying that?
Yeah.
And you would act it
say-
out in the small group
Yeah.
when you have groups.
Yeah.
When you have a small group of the children, you actually act it out. You create a scenario. And the whole thing of positive representation is really important. That billboard that you talked about, that you saw, in a sense, that was a positive. In a sense, it was a turn things around. But positive representations is really important. And pictures and books. And you want to bring some of the books? Yeah. I brought some books in. And then this is another thing, is getting lots of books for children that are stories of different children. That they're not all just white children. That's children learn from stories.
I think you're saying positive representation. I remember in school I use a lot with adults, which is called a flip, where you take the same scenario and just flip it upside down. So it's a description of an upside down thing.
Yeah.
So we start out by, there's videos about this. So what does sexism look like when it's on the other foot?
Yep.
And people get
Verbalize
shocked,
it. They don't want to talk about that.
right? And so like there's men posed and typical women
Just
posed.
passing around looking like
And people
that.
just freak out and go, no, that's not right.
Oh, that's
And
really
so
good.
that works really well for adults. I wonder.
Yeah,
Kids
well,
would
older
connect with
children,
kids.
once you get into like middle school, you could with 10 and 11-year-olds. The cognitive development, they have to be able to symbolize and think outside of themselves. So like about 11, 10 or 11, middle age, school age, they should be able to figure that out. Yeah, really by adolescence, definitely, would be really good for adolescence.
And it's really interesting because it's like your experience, and I think Oma and I both done that with our daughters, that if you start with them young, it becomes such a part of them that this is not shocking, and they're really open to talking about it, and they point things out. I mean, both of our daughters could blow us away in their understanding of social justice and really their deep commitment to it, because they were also raised with that. So I think it's really powerful to talk to kids young. And it's funny, once you get over that initial hurdle of, when they say like, well, what does that mean to be gay? Like, and you're like, I have to answer that question. Once you get over that and start talking, they're like, okay, fine. And you can always answer it, I think like we talked about with her 6-year-old, in age-appropriate ways. So, a 14-year-old, you can talk in more depth than the 6-year-old. But you start answering it at 6, and then by the time they're 14, they're telling you about it.
Age appropriate is the problem I have when I'm talking to my kids, and I find myself, and they don't even realize it sometimes that I'm talking way over. Although I feel like sometimes I don't know.
That's okay.
I'm like, yeah, and I'll continue and I'll keep saying the things I'm saying, and then I'll wonder later on if they really understood what I told them. But and I see them sometimes. I can see when they're understanding. Other times they're just spitting back what I've said, or or what I've done.
That's right.
But other times I do blow it away. I'm like, well, we actually
I've
got
heard
that.
I've
and
heard
he's
them
3.
talk, and they are understanding a lot.
Yeah.
Their conversations are very good.
That's what. Yeah. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I wonder about those two.
And these kinds of things can you want to do in your home too.
Right. That's what.
If different
Yeah.
groups, especially if they're in closely all white or mostly white, but everywhere. But this is really important, and it normalizes diversity. Like your experience of living in New York City was normalized for her, and then it wasn't for you in your first place, but it was in Canada. It was normalized. So then you had these 2 experiences, which is really healthy for you to be able to have that.
And when we were talking about external messages that children receive, it's also in literature and books. You have to really seek out books that represent diversity. We have a parent in our classroom whose son is in 1st grade or 2nd grade, and some of the children in the class told him that his skin looks like poop, because he's African American. And she came to us and asked for resources, because he talked to his mom about it, and his mom talked to the teacher, and the teacher's addressing it in the classroom, but she was looking for specific books that that she can go and read to the children. And
I
so
find
it's-
these books, we have books, I thankfully have family members that are very adamant about mailing us books as part of like supporting our children. But when I go to seek them out on my own, I find them more expensive. I find them harder to find. Or
Howard
when I
Powell's
go to the
books has a
library,
lot
I've
of
got a
free,
list
cheaper
of people
books.
waiting for it,
Yeah,
or whatever
that's
it is.
true.
So
But go to
they're hard
Powell's.
to,
Yeah.
it is, but they're actually more expensive than like,
Some of the used books, they have
Yeah.
been used.
Yeah.
But you're right, it is.
That's
Yeah, you
true.
can't just pop over to Goodwill and buy a picture
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
no, it's, yeah. And
Yeah,
then
you're right.
When I do find them in Goodwill, I'm like, score!
Yeah, right.
And I think Goodwill's expensive for used books, but I'll pay it there because $2.99 is better than $14.99 per
Yeah.
book, you
Yeah.
know, so it's
Right.
Dude, and it-
the library.
the tidal wave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten a bunch there too, because then there's some that aren't well circulated that don't get checked out all the time. And I have scored plenty there.
Yeah.
But, and you go on those days where they're like $1 each.
Yeah, yeah.
Tidal Wave Bookstore in North Portland.
And another thing we found challenges in locating with books is that
Like over
they
at
show a
Dishman.
different culture, but they're not, that there's normalcy to it, that it's not saying that this is something special, ooh, wow, let's read about this, but just that it's like, I think like the swirling hijab, it's just a story about a little girl and her emotional story with her mom, and that she misses her mom, so she uses the hijab in different ways. So it's not about like, oh my gosh, she wears the
This is how
hijab,
you
like
wear it.
wow.
Yeah.
It's a story of a little girl, and it's just her story. And so
That's good.
we've looked for books like that too, that just sort of talk about, and it's funny when children have had Oma as a teacher, they talk about the hijab in so many different ways. We had one, I'm going to tell the story about the alarm. We had one group of little children, and the fire alarm went off. And and he was covering his ears like this, and his face is scrunched up. He's really upset by the fire alarm. And mom was trying to comfort him, and she said, after it goes off, and he says, "Well, I don't have one of those." To cover his ears. And she's like, next time he needs one. So,
Protect my ears.
but it becomes something that's part of their day. It's not unusual.
But it's so interesting when children are exposed to respecting other cultures and other, diversity, they become advocates, they become little allies, right? I remember one of the children in our classroom, because sometimes, children become curious once, especially if they've been in the classroom for a year, then they'll start to ask questions. Why do you wear that? Can I see your hair? What color is your hair? So I'll take off my hijab and show them. And I remember one time I did that, and one of the 5-year-olds who was in our classroom, she was there for 2 years. Some of the children, the uncomfortableness is laughter. It's not that they're mocking, they're laughing. They're like, oh, you don't look like teacher. Oh, you look so different. And they're laughing. And she was across the room, and she just darted across. And she goes, don't laugh at my teacher. And she was just like, and I was, and I thought, wow, because I've done it many times for them on circle time, like, oh, these, when I'm having good hair days, I do it. And so they think I always look fabulous. But it was just like, that really struck me that she saw that, because I didn't see her laughter, the child's laughter as something negative, because it was a natural reaction, but she really stood out.
I kind of wanted to talk about that because a lot of times we talk about multiculturalness in the sense of celebration.
Yeah.
Oh, look, isn't it so nice? Some people eat beans, and then we don't get beyond that and say, oh, we're all a little different, but we're all
Very
fine.
important.
Instead of saying, we're all a little different, and some people are valued more.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
And then what are you going to do
That's
about
right.
it?
That's
And
right.
say,
Yeah.
you may need to stand up for somebody.
Yes.
And you may need to step in and say,
Yes.
we're not all equal, some people get attacked.
That's right.
And I have that with my students, they're coming in
That's
and they're
really
saying, oh, I don't see a difference, I didn't grow up with
That's
this,
that
that's a
whole
problem of the
colorblindness
past. Exactly.
theory.
But they'll say, that's a problem of the past, we're over that now. And so I don't need to do much about it. And so I need to push them and say, nuh-uh, there's plenty still going on, and even if you don't see it in words.
And
The
that's
structures.
this right here. It's becoming superior, being able to say that is, I'm superior.
And
That's what that's
pointing out the value difference and
Right.
saying, we're not treated equally. Some people get laughed at.
Yes.
What are you gonna do about it?
That's
Thank
what I
you.
have, I have hard
Do
time
you
with.
want to fill out an evaluation? I think they're over there. They're right there. We've been passing in. It's very short. Yeah, we're getting ready to close that.
You guys right on the end.
This is a powerful
Jen, can you show me?
education about white privilege is the best doorway to help those of us who think we are not racist to recognize that structurally and often unconsciously we still are. That is really a powerful, that's Richard Rohr. He's a Franciscan monk.
One thing I'm having success with the students is moving them beyond this notion of I am racist or I am not racist as in all or nothing.
Yeah.
We could say, do you benefit from racism? And that might be a harder concept to work with little kids, but
Yeah.
moving them beyond this idea of there are good people who are not racist and bad people who are racist, and since I don't make jokes, then that doesn't apply to me.
Therefore, I'm not. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Like we could say, you still benefit from this.
You know, and another kind of image that I've heard is that, you know, with the floor being, is not even, you know, it's like, you know, you said the candy, that the floor is not even, you know, that there's a slant. I mean, and even some of those, especially depending on the age of the class, because that's probably not a preschool concept, but a little bit older kid could get that, you know, there's unevenness because it's not, we don't start out uneven.
I have a hard time with
I think
going
we'll-
further with that. Like the, oh, sorry. Like Iris might,
Excuse me,
sorry.
can you fill out an evaluation? Maybe we'll bring them down. We'll bring them down. We're getting ready to close up.
My
Go ahead.
daughter gets into the but whys, but why, but why, but
Right.
why?
Continue.
And I, you know, and I get to a point where I'm like, I don't even know what to say anymore, you know, but why, or why would they, or why would they, or why this, or why that, and it just keeps going and going and going, and I don't want to stop her from asking questions, but at some point I'm like, I don't even know what to say anymore.
Well, I mean, and I think that's a validation, you know.
Yeah,
it's-
I mean, I do
it's
tell her that.
sometimes
I'm like,
it's- sometimes it's hard for even adults to understand why. Why did this happen?
Yeah,
There's a little resource list going around of books that might be, articles. You can get these articles online for free through NAEYC, and I think I don't know if I put that on there. So you can just pull those right up. That's why I didn't copy the articles. You can read them right online. Just go to NAEYC. It's a National Association for Young Children.
Do you have this electronically?
Hmm?
Do you have that email? I mean, do you have this?
Oh, my email, I didn't put it, no, I need to get that, so you can.
She means the resources.
But that's okay, I'll take a picture and email to friends.
And then also, Johnson's book, Power and Privilege, is an excellent book for
Johnson?
yes, for white people, it makes a lot of white people angry. But it's called Power and Privilege by Johnson. So, my email's L, that's a lowercase l. And if you want these PowerPoints, I'll send them to you. That. And Oma, what is yours Oma Miyazaki? Yes. Okay. And this is Oma, if you have questions.
where in New York did you row?
And Flushing Greens.
Where?
I lived on Ash Avenue.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my God.
I lived there, and I also lived in Jackson Heights, and in Astoria.
We may have seen each other.
I know, right?
Not that-
No, yeah, I did grow, we lived in Flushing for 4 years, right on
I
Ash
want to
Avenue.
thank our
Boulevard.
Thank you very much
instructors
for
today,
coming.
and thank you for
Thank you very much
participating
for
in tonight's
Good help.
presentation. I believe there's going to be a class in here in a few minutes.
2 minutes, all right, we'll go clean up.
Yep.
Thank you for coming tonight. Oh, thank you. I noticed that